The House will come to order. Prayer by the chaplain.
Let us pray. Gracious God, we come into this moment with minds that race with worries and concerns. Calm our thoughts that we may focus on what is important now. We come into this moment with hearts full of care for those we love. Open our hearts so that our compassion may extend to those who need our efforts and skills today. We come into this moment with spirits aching for those who are hurting or carrying loss. Breathe new life into our midst so we may see possibilities before us. We come into this moment with joys that bubble like birdsong in spring days. Release those joys so that laughter and goodness may resound in the lives of all Minnesotans, from urban children to suburban retirees, from immigrants to dairy farm families, from those who have plenty to those who have plenty of need. We come here with our virtues and with our failings, and we offer them all in humble service to make a difference in this state. Guide our deliberations, and at the day's end, give us peace. Amen.
The chaplain for today is Reverend Hans Jorgensen from St. Timothy Lutheran Church, St. Paul, Minnesota. Pledge of Allegiance. Please remain standing and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. The clerk will take the roll.
Where that's coming from. clerk will close the roll. A quorum is present. The clerk will read the journal of the preceding day.
Journal of the House, 89th session, 37th day, St. Paul, Minnesota, Monday, April 13th, 2015.
If there's no objection, further reading of the journal will be dispensed with, and the journal will be approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Hearing no objection, the journal is approved as corrected by the chief clerk. Comparison reports. There is a copy of this order of business on each member's desk. If there's no objection, the motions will prevail. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail, and the substitutions will be made. Reports of standing committees and divisions. A copy of this order of business has been placed on each member's desk. If there's no objection, the reports will be adopted. Hearing no objection, the reports are adopted. Second reading of House files.
Second reading House File number 321.
Second reading.
Second reading House File number 385.
Second reading.
Second reading House File 610.
Second reading. Second reading of Senate files.
Second reading Senate File number 107.
Second reading.
Second reading Senate File 857.
Second reading.
Second reading Senate File 1218.
Second reading.
Second reading Senate File 1444.
Second reading. Introduction of bills. The following House files have been offered for introduction today. The chief clerk will report the House files and give them their first reading.
Introduction of first reading of House Files 2214 through 2217.
First reading, House files 2214 through 2217. Motions and resolutions. There are copies of the non-controversial motions at the House desk and online. If there's no objection, we'll take action on these motions first. Hearing no objection, the motions prevail. Announcements. The member from Hennepin, Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will Representative Pepin yield for a question?
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Just to follow up a little bit on Representative Murphy's discussion yesterday, we now know what bills are going to be on the calendar for Thursday, which is a number of gun bills. And we understand from your staff, although for some reason the chairs and the representatives won't acknowledge this, but we also understand from staff that there will be no omnibus bills taken up this week because people need to, they kind of want to plan for their Friday. And so I just want to confirm with you that there's not going to be any omnibus bills taken up on the floor this week.
Mr. Speaker and Representative Thiessen, that is correct.
Right.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will Representative Lucero yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative Lucero, I was just wondering, we're kind of moving into the time where Ways and Means is going to be hearing a number of these omnibus bills. They're going to be coming to the floor. I was wondering if you've talked about in caucus or you're aware that, that Speaker Dowd and Senator Bach have already cut a deal on how the budget is going to end, and everything that we're passing right now is an irrelevancy.
Representative Lucero.
Mr. Speaker, I guess I'm not understanding the question.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. I'll just explain it again. So, Representative Lucero, we are going to be passing a number of omnibus bills on the floor. A number of advocates have said that the Speaker says don't worry about them because it's all going to be resolved in conference and nobody needs to be worried about getting hurt at all. So the $2 billion in tax cuts that you're going to be passing out the floor, those will disappear into maybe $200 or $300 million in tax cuts. But the question is, are you aware, as the Speaker informed you, that he and Senator Bach have already cut a deal on the budget and that most of the actions we're going through right now are irrelevant?
Representative Lucero.
Mr. Speaker, no.
Representative Thiessen.
Will Representative Fenton yield for a question?
She will yield. Representative Thiessen.
I guess the question, Representative Fenton, is the same thing. Has the Speaker informed you that the deal has already been cut for the session and that the tax cuts you're going to be passing aren't real and the other bills that you're passing aren't real?
Representative Fenton.
Thank you, Minority Leader Teese. One person alone cannot pass bills.
That was a good answer from Representative Anderson. Thank you for giving her that answer.
Representative Thiessen.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for that, Representative Fenton. I guess that's all the questions that I have today, but it will be interesting as we proceed through the process here. Oh, Representative Knobloch. Will Representative Knobloch yield for a question?
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Representative Knobloch. As we move through this process, I'm assuming you're going to be answering a lot of questions about these omnibus bills, since it seems to me that you're the one actually writing most of the omnibus bills. Is that correct, that we should direct our questions to you?
Representative Knobloch.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Representative Thiessen, if it's my job to write all the omnibus bills, I better get to work, because I thought other people were supposed to do that.
I think you better get to work.
Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. One more question for Representative Knobloch.
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Representative Knobloch, as I've looked through the numbers, and I know that you're spending in your budget bills, well, the overall budget you put together is about $42 billion. Spending in your budget bills is $39.96 billion, somewhere in that range. But that doesn't count the general fund transportation bill spending that you're doing. So is it correct, as I understand it, that your budget that you're going to be passing out the House floor, A, will be the biggest budget in the history of the state of Minnesota, and secondly, is going to be significantly over $40 billion?
Representative Knobloch.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Thiessen, I think some of the answer to the question you're talking about depends on some things that haven't been resolved yet. For example, what do we do with the roughly $300 million that we've left unallocated on the bottom line? We're going to be making some more decisions on that in the near future, and you know, that'll be an item before Ways and Means. How is the money allocated in terms of the spending between the $460 million surplus that exists as of the end of fiscal year 2015 as opposed to 16 and 17? So I think that some of those things, Minority Leader Thiessen, are items that maybe we don't know the answer to yet, but I suspect in the next week, as we act on some of those issues, we'll have those answers.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If Representative Knobloch will yield for another question.
He will yield. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Well, first of all, my number, I'm pretty sure I'm correct that the number that you are already spending and committed to in your general fund budget, without kind of the tricks and hiding the transportation spending, is between $39.9 and $40 billion. And with that transportation spending, and you might say that it's this 2015 money, the 200 and however, the money that's left over for this biennium, but you're going to be spending that in the next biennium for expenses in the next biennium. So it seems pretty clear to me that you're already over $40 billion. So the question to me is, why are you so obsessed? Is there a reason you're so obsessed with at least being able to tell your base that you're staying under $40 billion? Is that what driving some of the hidden money? And then I'd love an answer also on how, if you have any ideas on how you're going to spend that $300 million, it would be helpful for all of us to know as well, and I'm sure it would be helpful for your members to know how you're going to decide that.
Representative Knobloch.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I guess, again, there's several questions you've asked Minority Leader Thiessen. I'll try to answer them. I guess regarding the $300 million, you know, we're having discussions with our members about what, if anything, we should do with that money right now, and I certainly am open to input from your members on that too. We have another Ways and Means meeting scheduled on Thursday where that is an item that may well be, and I think will likely be discussed. In terms of the, you know, as you know, Minority Leader Thiessen, we commonly talk about the general fund budget here as the state budget, and we commonly set it up as a biennial budget, the next one being 2016 to 17. And for that one right now, we are in the $39.9 billion range of spending. But of course, there is the all funds budget, and if you look at all funds, including the federal funds that flow through, it is substantially larger. And when you include all those federal funds, I think it's certainly fair to say that we will be spending more than we have in the past.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, no, there's no question that you're going to be passing the biggest state budget in the history of the state by a long shot. I don't think that there's any dispute about that. One other thing for Representative Knobloch, if he'd yield for one more question.
He will yield for yet another one more question.
Thank you.
Representative Thiessen.
And this has to do with what's happening here. So in 2013, Representative Carlson provided a week in advance the schedule for Ways and Means about when the omnibus bills were going to be scheduled and heard in Ways and Means. We've been unable to get that information from you or from your staff, so I'm wondering if you'd be willing to agree right now that by the end of the day we'll know what next week's schedule for Ways and Means is going to be, just similar to what Representative Carlson did in 2013, just as a matter of courtesy.
Representative Knobloch.
Mr. Speaker, Minority Leader Thiessen, I guess I wasn't aware that information had been provided in 2013. In fact, I was told it had not been provided in
We have an email for you if you want.
And I guess I, of course, wasn't here in 2013, so I guess I don't know whether it would be provided or not. But I certainly understand the need for the minority to have some information like that, and I'll be getting more information to Representative Carlson.
Mr. Speaker, if you'll yield for another question.
Yes, he will yield for one more question.
So that's a yes, that you'll give us the information today for next week's schedule of hearings so that people can actually plan ahead?
Representative Knobloch.
Mr. Speaker, Representative Thiessen, I don't know that I have an entirely firm schedule for all of next week at this time, so I don't know if I could fairly give you that information. But let me talk to my staff and leadership, and let me see what we've got that we feel we can share that would be accurate for you, and we'll give you that information.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If he'd yield for one more question.
I'm certain he will. Representative Thiessen.
Thank you. Representative Knobloch, one last question. Is the plan for Ways and Means going to be similar to the 2005 session where Ways and Means fundamentally changed the budget bills as they came when you were the last time the chair of the Ways and Means Committee? I remember those committees would last for hours and hours. Lots of new policy would be added. There would be testimony taken in the Ways and Means Committee, and the budget would be fundamentally changed in the Ways and Means Committee. That hasn't been, and that was your last session, I know. That really hasn't been the practice since then, but I'm wondering if we're going to go back to that 2005 model, or whether the Ways and Means Committee is going to, just again for planning purposes, whether the Ways and Means Committee is going to essentially respect the work of the committee process and honor the work, or has all the committee work that we've done up to this point, is it going to be irrelevant because Ways and Means is going to change these bills pretty fundamentally?
Representative Knobloch.
Well, Mr. Speaker, Minority Leader Thiessen, I guess I don't recall that we fundamentally changed the bills in 2005. How long we are there probably depends a great deal on how many amendments are offered, which probably depends a great deal on what your side of the aisle decides to do. You know, what changes may be made in the bill is subject to the votes of the committee and how the committee members may vote. And so I guess it's hard for me to predict the answer to that. If the committee members choose to accept amendments and start changing bills, then we'll have changes to the bills.
Representative Thiessen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So that sounds to me like you're not going to be coming in with very many amendments to these bills, and it's more going to be dependent on how many the DFL offers. So that's helpful for us to know. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Further announcements. Representative Pepin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. A couple of things. Rules Committee will be meeting immediately after session in the basement. Republican members, we will also caucus after session in room 5 immediately after session. And Mr. Speaker, I move that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 a.m. on Wednesday, April 15th, 2015.
Representative Pepin moves that when the House adjourns today, it adjourns until 10 a.m. Wednesday, April 15th, 2015. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The motion prevails. Representative Pepin.
I move that the House do now adjourn.
Representative Pepin moves that the House do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. No. The motion prevails, and the House stands adjourned until 10 a.m. Wednesday, April 15th, 2015.